in general, how do you find VAs? Like, how do you know, and we could always say, how do you find the right VA? Because that's a really a more in-depth question. But in general, you know, we know FreeUp is a great place to find VAs because you guys have already got them nice and categorized. And I went to FreeUp when I first needed to hire a VA because I didn't know anything about online jobs, .ph, that kind of thing. I didn't know anything about that. So what I loved about FreeUp is, oh, okay, the skills are already here. All I have to do is read them and pick a category that I need help in. And I love the part where you said about the project base where, you know, think of it as a project at a time instead of like, okay, part-time, you know, let's just get this project done. And I know FreeUp allows that, but do you have any other tips in general about how to find VAs?
Yeah, I mean, there's no shortage of competitors, and they all have their pros and cons. I mean, you go to Upwork; they obviously have a much bigger software budget than we do. They have a much more freelancer on the platform and virtual assistants that you can sort through. And if you go to Fiverr, they have listings that you can go through, and there's so many different pros and cons. I mean, I built FreeUp to have the pre-vetting where we take 1 out of every 100 people. You've got the speed where we introduce people to you and you don't have to browse through people, the 24/7 support in case you have the smallest issue, and the no turnover guarantee where if they quit, we cover replacement costs. I always focus on that triangle, the skill, the attitude, and the communication, no matter where you hire from. And with the skill, you don't necessarily need someone to be a 10 out of 10. I mean, you can be a 5 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10. What's important is that the person is honest about what they can and cannot do and that they're priced accordingly. The attitude, you want people who are passionate about what they do. If they're a bookkeeper and you hate bookkeeping, they should love bookkeeping as much as you love being an entrepreneur. They should be able to take feedback without taking it personally. They shouldn't get aggressive the second that something doesn't go their way. And with communication, I mean, we have 15 pages of communication best practices that they have to go through and memorize and get tested on. And that's stuff like responding within a business day and how do you handle emergencies and hitting due dates and getting on the same page early with scope and taking the responsibility there. So it really is that trifecta. It's very rare that you're sitting there 2 months later and you're saying, man, that person had the exact skills he said he had. Their attitude was great. They communicated, but that was a terrible hire. That usually doesn't happen.
Yeah. So just to follow up on that real quick, just my own experience. So when I first started hiring VAs, what I noticed for myself, which it will absolutely kill the experience and make you think that, you know, oh, the VAs don't work or whatever, is you don't plan it out. It's like you're the weakest link. Because when I first had my first VA hire, I brought her on board and she's like, all right, I'm ready to work. And I'm like, yeah, go do, you know, I was like, I didn't know what to put her. I had, you know, nothing in place. So to me, if you're thinking about hiring a VA, the first thing I would do, I think somebody asked earlier, like, well, what if I'm not an expert in that? So some things that you can do is just, you know, Nathan said, like, if you're hiring somebody who's supposed to be an expert on that, they should know the basics. You know, so you should be able to set, you know, basic criteria, but you know, you should have a plan in place, written down that you can hand to them that say like, hey, every, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I want you to optimize my PPC. I want you to run search term reports. So in other words, even if you're not an expert, you know, either go find a blog post that tells you how to optimize PPC to give yourself a general knowledge of it, or watch a YouTube video, or make them watch a YouTube video, even if you have to. But make sure it's planned out so that when they, you know, when they start working, they hit the ground running and they're not sitting there twiddling their thumbs. I know that when I had that happen, like those VAs just like, didn't perform and they ended up, you know, like losing interest and probably getting another job, just going away because they get bored. They're like, I'm sitting here doing nothing. So definitely pre-plan that.